like great pictures on Instagram that are romanticized about farming, and farming is the hardest work ever on planet Earth. And I'm sure everybody here who's a farmer knows that. So yeah, showing respect for the different producers, whether they're male, female, also like having these conversations, also taking the power back so that the decisions are now going to be made between the consumers and the producers is paramount to like real true food sovereignty. So in order for us to be empowered and have the ultimate power, which is what the definition of sovereignty is exercising the ultimate power. And so in order for us to do that, we need to create the food systems where we can thrive. And I think that one of the ways that we can have sovereignty over our food system is to grow hemp for food. And that's one of the main ways that I think hemp can change the world. And there are many, many, but really if we start incorporating hemp into our diet. And I wanted to mention that throughout COVID, there hasn't really been a lot of talk on like how, one of my elders pretty much right off the bat last March, we were talking about COVID, and she said, your immune system is your own responsibility. And it's so simple, but it was really profound. And I've like really carried that with me over the last year. Like my immune system is my responsibility. I can't expect other people to show up. And how am I going to like exude vitality and be super healthy? Because we are exposed to viruses and bacteria all the time. So we need to be like super strong and vital. So like when that stuff comes, we're just like punching it out of our biosphere. And so, yeah, I think that eating hemp and eating a high vibe diet that incorporates hemp is one of the best ways that we can increase our vitality right now. And that's why I wrote my book. So hemp has an amazing, amazing nutritional profile, starting with little tidbits like 3 tablespoons will give you a protein value of around 11 grams, which is huge for such a small space. And also hemp is gluten-free, vegan, paleo, keto, whatever like your diet lifestyle is. It's like pretty much super easy to incorporate hemp in there. There's actually no known allergy to hemp hearts. And also, as far as nutritional profile goes, we're talking about like one of the best foods for your hair, skin, nails, and your brain. I'm really interested in like eating a really good brain diet right now, and hemp is like at the top of the list for that. Yeah, so that's what's up. I think that hemp can change the world, and that incorporating it to our diet, maybe just replacing a couple meals a week with something that's hemp-based. My personal take on hemp, and as far as my book goes and my work, is really like a kind of intertwining hemp and gastronomy, like really high level, delicious dishes, kind of beyond the smoothie and the sprinkles, which are great. That's a great place to start. But really part of what I did for the book was connect with different places on earth that have a cannabis culture, and then kind of recreate some of my recipes or the recipes that I like from those regions to incorporate hemp. So I wanted to start with this next part by just going over some of the ingredients that we're going to talk about right now when we're talking about hemp that are in the book. So this is some dried hemp that we grew, and we use this in a couple recipes in the book, like making tea, super easy. So this is one form of hemp that we're going to talk about. The other one is, and I think ingredients are really important. I think that if you're walking to a gas station and buying something with cannabinoids in it, that is a really bad idea, and you should stop doing that. I think that we all really need to educate ourselves and empower ourselves, and that I hope that's a value to everybody. We really need to be asking, like, where is our hemp coming from? Who's growing our hemp? What are their growing practices? What are their extraction practices? And then also, what are the value added ingredients that people are adding to the hemp products that are being touted as super healthy, and we want to get more information on that. So I encourage everybody to get more information. Something else that's in the cookbook and that I really like using in my hemp kitchen is hemp seed oil. This is a really special oil that I actually got right outside in Victoria, Canada. And it was this beautiful farm, and I just kept really good care of it. It's in a dark, this is like a black jar, but I'm seeing lots of hemp seed oil in plastic, and I I'm really anti-plastic, and there is a part on that in the book about not eating plastic, because we're actually a lot of the food that we have, and unfortunately a lot of the things that children are eating are like sitting in a plastic container. Like we were never meant to be eating food like that. So hemp seed oil, it's amazing. You also want to keep it in the refrigerator. You'd never want to heat your hemp seed oil. When it's heated, it creates free radicals, which are super detrimental to your body and involved in the cancer process and all of that. So don't heat your hemp oil. Think of it as more of something that's like something that you finish with, almost like I feel like we should start looking at hemp seed oils like we look at truffle oils, something that's like really like just delicate and was maybe like kind of like a treat to purchase, and that like we want to take good care of it and maybe just like finish things off with it. Hemp hearts, they're pretty prevalent in the recipe. Here's a jar right here of hemp hearts. I don't really have like my favorite hemp seed source. If somebody out there wants to connect with me about some hemp seed that they know about that's like grown with amazing practices and organic and all the best things, and I would love to know about that and support them. But we're still like on the lookout for them. And I would also encourage people to be careful about the packaging with the hemp hearts, because I'm noticing a lot of these kinds of packaging. I mean, this one is okay. The liner in there is okay, but there's lots of like metallic pouches that contain hemp hearts, and I'm really skeptical of those, and I think they're super sketchy, and I don't think we should really trust that with something that's cracked open and basically like soaks up. Like if you think about this is like a mini micro house or environment, and then there's plastic in there, and then you put the hemp hearts in there that are like fresh and beautiful, they'll start soaking up like the off-gassing, and that will be in your hemp hearts. So you want to be mindful of how you're getting your hemp seeds, hemp hearts. And the other thing that's in the book of just a little bit is a full spectrum extract. A lot of people are on the cannabinoid full spectrum extract kick. That's amazing. I'm happy for that. And I also, again, really caution people to do their due diligence when they're purchasing extract. And again, this is not something you wouldn't buy normally, like real medicine at a gas station. You might get like some Tylenol or something like that. So I encourage everyone to take their hemp extract purchases seriously and do some research. And again, want to be asking some of those questions from the people that we want to support. So this is a company that I like. It's out of Hawaii. It's female owned, and I really like it. The other thing I would say is this is a 1,000 milligram bottle. And I think if your little bottle of 1 fluid ounce has less than 600 milligrams of full spectrum extract, it's not really doing very much for you. So I would, again, caution everyone, or hopefully bring value, to be looking at extracts that have at least 600. I mean, this 1,000 is really kind of like my minimum that I like for us. I feel like it has a really good efficacy at this dropper, in this dropper size. So then the last thing that's a part of the book is just some fresh cannabis leaves. So I just got these from a friend last night, and we will be using these, and they're also in the recipe book, in my cookbook. So we are going to just do a couple quick things. I made these cookies beforehand. Oops, there they are. I don't know if you can see them. I'll try to show you one. See? So this is like a little hemp. In the cookbook, it says like a hemp raspberry thumbprint cookie, but I made these with the strawberry rhubarb jam that I found today that I really liked. And also, this is just like loaded with protein. This is an awesome cookie to give to your kids. You can put whatever you want in the middle. Lots of protein, lots of fat. Again, like that's really, we want to be eating healthy fats and protein. So this is an excellent way to get that, with almond flour and also hemp hearts. So yeah, I just pre-made that out of the cookbook. And then I wanted to talk about this other ingredient, which I forgot to mention. This is some hemp protein. And again, and it's probably annoying, but not all proteins are created the same. And so generally speaking, protein powders are like something to like just ask more questions about, because everything's like super processed. And as an herbalist, don't like too much processing, want to try to be eating closer to the whole food source. So, but I do really like this brand, and it is from my friend, Will Carr. He owns Sunrise Supplements, but it's awesome. And it has hemp in a few ways. So it has hemp protein. It also has full spectrum extract in here. So this is a great kind of product to use. Not all the time, but I think sometimes it's great to have something really easy that you can get a bunch of protein out of, and amino acids and like all the good things. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was just making hemp milk. I think that I know a lot of people like their dairy milk, and that's awesome. And I'm not trying to discourage you from that. I'm only trying to encourage you to maybe incorporate more hemp into your diet and increase your vitality. And so again, I just bought this as an example to show lots of these containers are super sketchy. If you open this and like look in there, there's like a weird kind of aluminum colored liner. So I think we just take this for granted, like not this specifically, but when we walk into the store, I think there's this agreement that everything's safe for us, and everything's actually not safe for us. So I'm really encouraging, I always do that when I have a platform, to really encouraging people, like the call to action is to ask questions and to empower yourself and educate yourself so that you know what you're buying in the marketplace and you know what you're feeding your family. So we don't really want milk that's just like has no shelf life, or actually, yeah, it has like a infinity shelf life and it's just sitting there and doesn't have any chi or prana. We don't really want to be eating that. I did want to mention that in Hinduism, when the gods were like churning the cosmic consciousness, it's called the Amrit, that they were churning it. And then when they dropped some of it, and everywhere where it dropped is supposed to be, they dropped the elixir of life, is where cannabis grows now. And so cannabis has so many amazing benefits to us. And that's why I really want to encourage everyone to get it in its best form from the people that you trust, that we can trust the most, so that we're actually like doing something good for our bodies and not being taken advantage of. So one of the things that we could do really easily is just make hemp milk. The first chapter of my book is about hemp milk. There's a couple yummy ones, like there's like an OG basic one, and there's like a banana one, which is what I just made. So yummy. Strawberry, and then there's also like a banana matcha in there. So I love making hemp milk. It's super easy, and you don't have to like, nobody has to like, no one's hurt, nothing weird's happening. There's nothing negative happening to any beings, and we're just making some hemp milk. So this is also in the cookbook. And I'm happy to share some of these recipes. If you guys want to be hitting up the chat, whoever hits up the chat I'm going to pick a winner out of there today and send you a cookbook, okay? But so the hemp milk's super easy to make. It's water, bananas, hemp hearts, vanilla, and then, yeah, hemp hearts, water, vanilla, vanilla extract. Yeah, and then you don't need to have like a Vitamix or a really expensive blender. I just use a Ninja, and I've had it for years and it works really, really great. My Vitamix broke and I wouldn't suggest that blender to everyone. It's super expensive. But you just use a blender, and then you blend it up for 2 minutes, and then you strain it. You don't have to strain it. So I was going to just show you, I already made this. And so I'm now using, oops, one second. I'm using this is a nut milk bag, which you can get like at your local like natural grocer or co-op. But at our local hardware store, which is called McGuckin's, you can actually get like a paint bag, and it's $1. And you can do that. So here's what we're doing right here. So see, we're just like running the milk through the milk bag. And then at the end, we're going to have like all this beautiful hemp milk. So yeah, that's something super easy to make, and you can just make fresh batches and keep it in these big fat mason jars. And I think everybody it's like something really simple you can do to just like show yourself some love, or someone in your family, and have that milk on hand, and you don't have to buy milk anymore. And it doesn't have carrageenan, which is super sketchy, also believed to cause cancer. So I would stay away from plant-based milks or anything that has carrageenan in it, but that's a side note. And then this is my favorite thing that I wanted to share with everybody. So this is not really in the cookbook because I didn't have some of the, ingredients of the juices that I made in the book. But this is a really, like, if you could do this every single day and add this into your life will be amazing. You'll feel so good and vibrant and vital. So this is just a couple cups of water with celery, turmeric, ginger, these really good, yummy Rayburn apples. And then there's just cannabis leaves on the top. And again, you don't really need to have an expensive blender at all. We would just blend this on high for 2.5 minutes or so. And then we basically, again, you can use a strain bag like that and then strain it and just have fresh juice every day. So that's it. We're talking about getting access to some cannabis leaves. So find some friends who can help you out with that. And then celery, apple, turmeric, ginger. I also like to add lemon to it, and you can do whatever you want. Like, sky's the limit on what you could create with that. So yeah, that's kind of what I had for everybody today. I think that it's really easy to switch out some meat. I think it's really easy to incorporate hemp into your diet. I think that another thing, I just feel like we all need to like really take control of our health and, you know, let food be thy medicine and medicine thy food. Hippocrates was talking about that over 2,000 years ago, and that's still so true. So I think for me, and the way I operate is the first level of everything is like the food that I have. That's my medicine, so that I don't actually need to get medicine. So yeah, thank you so much. If you want to connect with me or learn more about the book, which is printed on hemp paper. Yeah, I should actually tell you a couple things about the book. The book is Winona LaDuke wrote the foreword, so I'm really proud of that. Thank you so much, Winona. Love you. Yeah, and it's like a micro book, and it's a 5x7, and it's printed on hemp paper. And yeah, it's like the first carbon neutral book project. So we're bringing conscious capitalism to this, and as a mission driven project. And so we will actually be offsetting all of the carbon that we create in this project through carbon finance. So if anybody wants to connect with me about how they can stand out with their hemp company, how they can be doing things differently, how they can apply conscious capitalist practices to how they operate, because I really feel like right now in the new cannabis economy, like we really, really need to show true leadership. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is by having businesses that are truly sustainable. So if you want your business to be sustainable, please connect with me. You can reach out to me through hempcanchangetheworld.com. You can also find me at shadiramey.com and Feed Your Vibe on Instagram. So I'm just going to check and see if there's any quick questions, and that's it. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you so much for having me, and blessings to everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Shadi.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Hey.
Hey, guys.
Hey, everyone.
Oh, it's still broadcasting,
Hey, Mary
actually.
Jane. I didn't know Shadi was going to be on here.
Yeah, she was on with Winona's session because yeah, she just came on for the
Gotcha.
second part of it.
Okay. Sorry, I'm losing daylight over here. It's getting dark and I'm trying to hide out in my hotel room. I'm on the road right now.
I'm going to turn my phone to do not disturb real quick so that I do not get bothered in the middle of the call.
Okay. Yeah, Mary Jane, we're just going to run through like all the other ones, just introduce you. Won't take long, like 30 seconds max, and then we'll turn it over to you. You can share your screen if you want, or just kind of tell us, you know, some of the updates you got. I know you got some good ones. Okay, we got like about 3 minutes or so.
Okay.
Is that your new studio? Are you in the studio?
Yes, yes, I am.
Nice.
I'm so excited. I still haven't like officially moved in. I mean, I have, but it's not organized completely yet. I hit the road like the day that it got finished. I had to travel. I got home and, you know, kid life, you know how that goes. So I'm just slowly moving in. Then my computer crashed.
Okay. Oh no, did you lose everything or?
It's getting backed up right now. I went and purchased a drive yesterday after I got my kids squared away from their dental surgery. And he's going to be able to save, he said, 99% of it.
Oh yeah, well that's good. That's good to hear, and I'm excited to hear some updates you have. So I am ready, but we got 2 minutes. Do you want to start on time? Do you want to go early, Jason? How are the other sessions doing?
Anytime you guys are ready, we're ready to go. So I can just let me know when you want to start live streaming, and then I'll give host permissions to you, Mary, so you can share.
Okay.
Sound like a plan?
Yes.
And I don't know what time we have to end.
Yeah, I mean we're a minute out. I don't mind just jumping on. I think it'll be a good little start. I'm ready to start when you guys are.
I'm ready.
Okay, cool. I'll start recording. Oh, we already.
Okay, and I see us in session A, so we are live. Hello, everyone. We want to introduce you today to Mary Jane Oatman. This is going to be such a good talk, and it's a great way to end the day because she has a lot of the current updates on the things that she's working on. Mary Jane is a member of the Nez Perce tribe, a descendant of the Delaware tribe. She is also the founder of the Indigenous Cannabis Coalition and the publisher of THC Magazine. So if you haven't seen that magazine, you should definitely check it out. It's a hub for our people to go and learn about hemp and cannabis and what's happening in our communities. So, you know, she's part of a long lineage of her mother and grandmother fighting for this plant. And as you can tell by her name, she was born to do this. So I'm going to pass it on over to Mary Jane. Go ahead and give us your updates.
Well, himachas katia ya nunam hanua piamsa kinawakas pa oikla lautiwama himuma Inawatni Twas, Mary Jane Oatman, thank you for the introduction. I am joining you all from the ancestral homelands of my people, the Namipu people, known as the Nez Perce people. I was born into a long lineage of rope makers and working in the rematriation of our Indigenous women's economy that was very robust prior to European contact here in our homelands. A part of that history goes into our archaeological record as well as our cultural ethnographic work that we've done here in our Nez Perce homelands. And so it's an honor to be a part of this work of planting these seeds for future generations, and personally for myself to be working to create the preservation of story. So I did found the Indigenous Cannabis Coalition in 2019 after serving on the Minority Cannabis Business Association Board of Directors. At that time in 2017, while I was serving on the MCBA board, it became apparent that not enough work was being done externally outside of tribal communities to advance the very strong and dominant language and social equity conversation about the protection of tribal sovereignty in cannabis. At that same time, I also realized that many of our tribal communities were fearful in moving forward with hemp and cannabis economies because of the weaponization and because of the reality that our people are still being harmed by this so-called war on drugs, or Mother Earth, I like to say, because at the end of the day, you know, we sow seeds that our Mother Earth cultivates and stewards through her own, you know, natural life cycles in harmony with other plants and animals. And that's just, you know, inherent in Indigenous communities. And we also hear all too often the discussion about this green rush and everybody in this get rich quick scheme in hemp and cannabis. And I'm more of a from the perspective that we need to slow down and pump the brakes on that and find ways that we can use this healing plant for restoration and remediation projects in our homelands that are still battling with dirty mining practices that are from the 1800s and the gold rush. And so our Indigenous communities know all too often when we hear the word rush that is usually affiliated with some sort of exploitation of our communities, our watersheds, or our Mother Earth. And so with the Indigenous Cannabis Coalition, our mission is to provide advocacy and education in the tribal hemp and cannabis marketplaces by elevating our tribal cultures and economies. And we work to create awareness about what Indigenous communities are doing in hemp and cannabis. And a part of that is providing multimedia resources to advocate for tribal communities that are evolving in these economies. So I came up with the idea of a print publication to do that work. One, because prior to COVID, and this is all pre-COVID, and I'll kind of go into how we've been able to sustain and transition in light of that, was that Indian country gathers, whether it's the National Congress of American Indians, our American Indian Higher Ed Consortium, tribal colleges and universities gathering under AHEC, as well as our regional organizations, and then gatherings like these physically last year in late February, early March, while we all gathered for the conference in person. And that was one of the first times that I had the opportunity to showcase THC magazine. And my whole goal was to travel to the events that were happening across Indian country to share this work. I mean, I had already planned on attending the ACES conference and getting a booth there. And when the COVID pandemic struck, the live distribution model at these events of gathering, changed. And so I had to try to figure out how I was going to do a distribution of 10,000 magazines each quarter. And I'm just going to be real, still working out some of the kinks and challenges of that, because physically distributing 10,000 magazines is rather costly. It costs near as much as the actual print costs of the magazine. And for me, the magazine content itself was not about necessarily advertising and getting companies that are trying to sell something to Indian country, but rather the preservation of story and what's happening in Indian country. And so I'm still working out the kinks on that, but in the meantime, supporting the USPS system and getting flat rate boxes throughout Indian country in mass quantity, including to all of the tribally owned and operated dispensaries across the nation. I started out THC magazine with a national launch party, and I'm just going to share with you all. I was dreaming big, and I mean, I guess if you keep reaching for the stars, you'll always be high, because one of the areas that I was able to gather some amazing support with in doing this work. Oh, let's see. Go into screen share. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how I do my, no, stop share. Okay, so that's not working for me. I had a video that I wanted to share with you all.
You want to post the link of the video in the chat, and I can post it in the
Yeah. We can do that, because I just have it pulled up to be able to share with everybody, and because I think it's a really critical thing for Indian country to see the level of support that we have for the work that we are all doing collectively here. And so I'm going to just send that over in the chat so that we can get this one playing for everybody. And if you could turn up your audio to be able to hear the video, that would be really good. And so I hosted the first party out in Washington, D.C. in conjunction with the Executive Winter Council of the National Congress of American Indians. And I've got an amazing network of friends through cross-pollination of discussion of the protection of tribal sovereignty. So one of the first presentations that I did was at a Women Grow conference. And it was the first time that we'd ever had that level of discussion about the preservation of Indigenous story and the protection of tribal sovereignty. So I had some friends and networking done while I was at that conference, and they helped me secure King Weedy Cannabis Collective, which is a mansion in Washington, D.C. that hosts nonprofits. So my first event was held in Washington, D.C., and we had coordinated for a special guest speaker who at the last minute had to cancel her appearance, but provided the following video. Go ahead and play it, Jason.
Hold on. Full screen. Is the sound playing?
Yeah, just a little glitchy.
In any case, I'm honored to share a few words with you all on the launch of the Tribal Hemp and Cannabis magazine, which will become known as THC magazine. This publication will be pivotal as tribes begin to advance their cannabis economic goals. Part of tribal sovereignty is deciding which industries to engage in and how best to create economic opportunities for your tribe, but the federal laws regarding cannabis and hemp are in the way right now. That's why I support legalizing recreational marijuana and opening up agriculture to hemp farming opportunities. It will allow tribes to practice their sovereignty and build business opportunities and economic enterprises in their communities. I want to thank you all for playing a role in this movement and congratulate you on the first issue of THC magazine.
Like I said, I was dreaming really big when I first put out the request to her office to participate. When I first put the request out for her to participate in the event, and she said that she was going to, I was just absolutely blown away. But I reached back out to the office after they had put in the commitment that she would be able to attend as we were building THC magazine, and was also able to get a written contribution placed in the first issue of THC magazine. So now the why behind a print publication is that when our tribal communities gather and go back home, from a conference, a summit, a convention, a knowledge gathering opportunity, when they return to those communities, they want to bring back tangible evidence of change, substantive ideas that they can grab onto that other tribal communities have already done due diligence in figuring out. And I think that right now with the negative stigma that is still associated with plant medicines, that it is really important to be able to get something in the hands of our elders. And so that's why I chose a print publication, and then had always strategically planned to move forward from there with some sort of digital media platform. So we do have THC magazine available as a free digital download at www.indigenouscannabiscoalition.com, where you can get all of the issues of THC magazine free access in a PDF. I also was very mindful in how I was capturing this story because I reside in Idaho. We currently have an attack on the legalization of marijuana through a constitutional amendment proposal that was titled Senate Joint Resolution 101. It passed in the Senate and is now being heard in the House for a second reading for consideration in creating a constitutional measure. So they want to put it back to the voters as to whether or not they want to keep cannabis illegal. So already I can hear that tricky ballot language already getting played in Idaho, where people are entering the ballot booths not even knowing exactly if they check yes, is it for or against, their initial desire of what they want to see happen with cannabis reform. My grandmother is also a large, shareholder in some premium agricultural lands that have not been farmed because she's always opted out of, and her family's opted out of allowing, GMO farm products to be cultivated on their lands. And so my grandma, I put her on the cover of THC magazine's first issue One, because as a little girl, I spent time visiting my grandmother in federal prison. She was incarcerated for growing on the Nez Perce Indian Reservation in the 80s. And sadly, to this day, because of politics here in Idaho and the constant attacks on tribal sovereignty from local and state government, if my grandmother to this day tried to do what millions of people are making money off of doing and building an economy for, my grandmother would still likely endure a federal indictment. And so I don't want grandma to have to go down that road again of dealing with the United States government and the United States District Court to pursue this economy. And so I realized that, you know, what it's really going to take is stronger alliances between the tribes, tribes speaking a more unified language, and finding those endpoints where they have more agreement than disagreement, and being able to carry forward what are the tribal desires for federal legalization, decriminalization, and descheduling. And so THC Magazine is now, I kept plugging away all through the pandemic, had a couple of setbacks and hiccups along the way, just due to being able to access technology, being able to access human resources for interviews, and our intellectual and thought leaders throughout the cannabis communities. And so I started to shift gears there again and just do all of my interviews over Zoom and find ways to transcribe interviews, reach out to content writers to contribute. And so, you know, I only know about the stories that I know about, and it's through the networking with all of you that these other amazing stories have emerged from Indian country. And so we have 4 issues, you know, out. And the second issue, I'm really honored to have featured Winona as well as Muriel in the amazing women that are doing things in hemp and cannabis for their communities. And that came as a result of traveling down to the Tribal Green Symposium held at the Rincon Indian Reservation. That was the very last live event activity that THC Magazine was able to attend. And I was, oh no, that was the first one. That's right. I met Muriel first, and then I traveled out to the Winona LaDuke Hemp Conference in Minnesota. So from February to early March, my mom and I were on the road pretty much 3 weeks, just sourcing content and distributing the 10,000 copies of THC Magazine, putting some miles on the vehicle. And just through being at that conference, got to learn about, you know, the amazing work that's being done in, you know, in other tribal communities that were outside of my, you know, current networks. And so after I had the idea of developing an Indigenous women in hemp and cannabis issue, I really wanted to find something that was symbolic of the work that is being done, and to help elevate that our people have always had this relationship. We've had an ongoing, very robust relationship with Mother Earth that included our plant medicines. And so for the second issue of THC Magazine, I chose this cover, which was done by one of our tribal artists, John Seven Wilson. And this painting has been, you know, hanging in my family's home for so long. But you can see in the cover of that magazine, there's our chiefs holding the pipes. You can see the women working the ropes in the background. And for me, that was a very symbolic painting that was done to depict how vibrant our people's economies and lifeways were when we were in that state, prior to having other people put kind of like drunk goggle visions, you know, in front of us. And that's what I see us all doing now, is just, you know, taking off those you know, intoxicating visions that have been put in front of us to see a lot more clearly and to see the light of, you know, which we truly stand in. And of course, I couldn't leave out the men. So the third issue that we did for THC Magazine was Indigenous men in cannabis. And it was an honor to be able to feature, people who may not have ever been heard of, or their story would not have ever been told, had we just, and these are some humble people that are out there that are like, well, why do you want to interview me? I'm just a farmer. I'm like, exactly. You're not just a farmer, you're an Indigenous farmer that's, building opportunities and planting seeds for these future generations. And by the way, every issue of Tribal Hemp and Cannabis magazine is archived in the Library of Congress. And for me, that's a part of that preservation, is making sure that we did it the right way in terms of where we were cataloging THC magazine. Also, I had an opportunity to part with Emerald magazine for the 3rd issue to identify 100 plus Indigenous owned cannabis businesses to support right now. And so that publication has already been, between THC magazine and between Emerald and between the online work that we've done, that list has been distributed to 750,000 people across the nation. And a lot of the people that were featured in here didn't even realize that they were identified in here as one of the 100 Indigenous owned companies. But we started with all of the retail storefronts, the tribally owned and operated cannabis dispensaries, research to find brands, consulting companies, organizations, culinaries, cultivators, media, and CBD specific. And so that list is only going to grow and become more robust as we do more research and as more tribes move towards this direction. Data is super important. And so for me, while this is a culture and lifestyle magazine that's working on the preservation of story, it's also qualitative data, and more importantly, some quantitative data points in here. We also list all of the tribes that have had their plans approved by the USDA Department of Agriculture, or that are under review, and those that are drafting a plan, based off of the very up-to-date website at the USDA. I went there and found out, I just happened to be hopping over there just to get an update. And I was excited to learn that my own tribe on February 12th of this year had our plan approved. And so for the time being, it's definitely, there's a need to invest more in branding of these tribal communities that are working in this space. For the work that I'm doing, a part of that branding is the creation of a directory that features the logos of all of the tribally owned and operated dispensaries in the nation, and a resource directory that tells you their addresses and their contact information, as well as that map. So the map is going to be a standing feature in every issue of Indigenous or THC magazine. We're in the works of creating it as a curriculum or educational materials. The designer of the map, Aaron Carpella, said that he receives calls on a weekly basis about how people can get the blown up, wall size, I want to frame it, tribal hemp and cannabis map, because it's amazing. Like I said, it's data, and it's data in a tribal format. We're actually working to revise the map to include the pre-colonial Indigenous hemp trade routes, because getting the education in here is super key. Now, it was not purposeful to leave out Alaska and Native Hawaiian communities. That was, it was completely on accident, as I was just excited about moving forward on this project. So that's going to be another thing to be on the lookout for, is including our Alaska Native and Native Hawaiian brothers and sisters into other pages to showcase the work that they're doing, preserve their stories. And it's been a long road, but in order to get to this point of making sure that it's solid, operational, assisting other tribes and getting their word out with what they have going on, and finding a way to make this global, because that was a part of the work, in my original concept of all of this, is print publication early on, get access to our elders, and start to work on the education and advocacy component in our communities. And then externally, THC smoke signals. And so I've started the early development work of Indian Country's first podcast that's dedicated to the voices of Indian Country that are doing work in tribal hemp and cannabis. And so THC smoke signals is the next work that we have going on. I'm also working on a fundraiser Our fourth issue of THC Magazine was a tribute to missing murdered Indigenous women. That's 5 generations of women there on the cover of, well, one little man wrapped up in that buffalo robe. So THC Magazine's fourth issue that just came out and is hot off the press on the newsstands is, is that tribute, because I recently lost a cousin to murder, and she was the best friend of my designer as well of THC Magazine, who happens to be one of my cousins also on the other side of my family. And so as we were working through our grieving process and trying to figure out as we're building THC Magazine, it just came to me, that we want to find some way to do a tribute for our sister. And at the same time, my son had commissioned a pair of shoes. And he says, Mom, I will put them, I'll give them to you as a fundraiser. And so right now we have a pair of size 10 custom designed Nike shoes with the MMIW logo on them. And so in the hard copy of THC Magazine, I'm going old school with that magazine raffle where you can fill out the coupon, clip it out, and send $5 to the Indigenous Cannabis Coalition, with $1 of every ticket sales going back to MMIW research. And so we're trying to find ways that we can build, our social equity platforms and expand them beyond Indian country to include the real issues and crises that our communities that are dealing with, that are largely connected to the exploitation of our communities in the fossil fuel industry, to the exploitation of our people since the first step of colonizers on our homelands, in terms of the insatiable greed that continues to just take from our community. And our sister plant here is also falling prey to that same notion. And so anything that we can do to tie our, education and advocacy through this magazine, to Indian country and beyond. And so THC Smoke Signals is going to be a global podcast. I'm going live tonight on a San Diego radio station at 7 p.m. to discuss this issue a little bit more in depth. And that was one thing that I wasn't really conscious about on the front end, is I'm so busy building magazines and working in preservation of these stories and archiving them. I wasn't doing much PR for the Indigenous Cannabis Coalition or THC Magazine itself. And so I've taken a couple of steps backwards to really build how we advocate the work that we're doing, because it needs to be a bit more circular there. I need to be doing a better job of advocating for THC Magazine, not just printing them and getting them sent out, but to showcase those stories. And so I'm currently working on a collaboration with Honeysuckle Magazine as well as Skunk Magazine to cross-pollinate our stories into their content, so that they can be shared to their, million plus print and online distribution networks. And so there's a lot of sisterhood going on right now in the hemp and cannabis platforms. The women I've really noticed are taking the lead in making sure that we're building bridges into other communities that are doing similar work, so that we can have more shared knowledge instead of a competition of that knowledge. And so I wanted to just see how much more time that I had left. It doesn't look like I have a whole lot more time left, but I wanted to read a short passage because I was super honored to be able to showcase Alex Whiteplume. And I know that he got to speak a little bit earlier, but many people don't know of, the story and the origin of how he got to where he was at. And I was really honored to be able to interview him, just before his wife passed, and he still had so much, vitality in the story. And I'm hoping to be able to share that through the Zoom once I restore all of my data. But without further ado, some words from Alex Whiteplume, and then I'll open it up for some Q&A after that. The tribe always brings in outsiders, setting up shop for 4 or 5 years. They make a bunch of money and leave the tribe with SBA loans that aren't paid for. I wanted to do it on my own. So I did. I stepped out and got some seeds from between here and Omaha, Nebraska. There's a railroad track, and that's where I picked some seeds from. I researched that. In 1919 or 1920, Americans brought 10 German scientists to Omaha, Nebraska. They were stationed there, and their purpose was to create a super fiber plant because they knew that we were going to be going to war, and they did. The seeds were hauled from there to Fort Collins, Colorado, which just goes down 60 miles south of where I live. And so in Fort Collins, there was this seed deposit. There is no seed there now, but nobody is crying around about this national interest. I found some seeds there. The Sisseton people there are blessed to have that super fiber seed. I used to sell echinacea root. That's what I was doing then. So I picked a hat full of seeds and I brought them back here. And that is what we planted in like 1999 or 2000. And they took off like skyscrapers, 16 and 20 feet tall, beautiful. I didn't know that we just need the female to grow plants. The male, after he pollinates, he dies and just drains water. Anyways, so I started learning in 1999 and have been learning up until today. I wanted to share that part with, Alex's story, because that's really where we're at. We all have to just, be brave and listen to the call of our ancestors and just plant the seeds. I'm really, like I said, humbled and honored to be able to hear that story from him. Because he also shared, how he wanted to build and grow that economy, from outside of his family to his bigger tribal community, and how he got into politics and how everything happened after he got into politics. But he put something out into the universe during his story about, getting his missing buffalo back, because after he went on to tribal council, he had a heart attack and he lost all of his buffalo herd. But he describes how his buffalo used to eat the hemp, and about how his first time when he had harvested one of his bison to eat, that he realized that was his first time consuming CBD. And so, the wisdom of our elders definitely need preserved. They're time capsules for our future generations to be able to reflect on, just like we do with our own ancestors, about, the little tidbits of information that help us reclaim our languages, about the way that we still need to find a connection with our Indigenous women ancestors and how they made the rope. Because prior to colonial contact, our women were known as rope makers. I come from a town that's named Kamei, Idaho. Kamei derives from the word Kamu. The Kamu-Yamupa people were the people of the hemp rope. And so everything that we've been talking about today is so interconnected, but for, I think, us, it feels more expedited because our Indigenous communities are the only ones that seem to be fighting back for the preservation of Mother Earth. And so I was really, really happy to be able to support Representative Howland in different ways and spaces during her confirmation hearing. And because, that was one of the early sisters that really had a vision and had a back for the support of THC magazine. And every once in a while, when things were starting to get rough, I hear no for buying ads all the time. People are like, print ads, I don't invest in print advertisement. And these are our own tribally owned and operated dispensaries, but I put them in anyway, because, to me, this is archiving of data. And so for every, 10 no's that I hear while I'm picking up the phone to call for advertising and support, I'll have to play that video of Deb Howland and then, just reshift, my focus and, pick up the phone and just be prepared to hear some more no's. But as people see that THC magazine is not going anywhere, and that the quality of this publication and the preservation of these stories is unparalleled, that they are slowly but surely starting to make their way into this print publication. And so, with that, I just appreciate everybody's support, whether that be the spiritual support, the financial support, and hit up my Facebook. You can actually print and download a copy of that, or print the PDF copy as well, to enter that drawing for those MMIW shoes. Thank you.
Wow, Mary Jane, I always love getting together with you. And you're right, there is a true sisterhood in this industry right now. You see women really pushing this to the forefront, and you're one of them. We got a lot of comments from people that, they're super excited about what you're talking about. One person didn't even know about THC Magazine, and they're looking you up right now. So another question someone had, and I'm just going to jump right into it, is they want to know, where are you going to speak in San Diego? What radio station is that?
Oh goodness, I would have to pull that up real quick. I think I can do it while I'm here on the Zoom, to be able to find that station. I was just getting ready to confirm all of that information right now, but I can definitely find that.
Yeah, while she's looking, I can kind of speak on that first initial meeting that we had at the Tribal Green Symposium. I mean, it was just really powerful to have a group of women in there, and it was mostly women. And the conference was even thrown by women, coming together and really educating each other and creating a network. And that just keeps happening, as we work with Winona LaDuke and keep moving forward. I'm very blessed to be here and to be working with people like Mary Jane, who is taking it global. She's taking our stories, preserving them, and then also sharing it with the world. People are very interested in the way tribes think about hemp and what we're doing. So I think it's so great what you do. I can't wait to see smoke signals to get off the ground and to keep following your work.
Oh, I'm looking to book guests. So if you are interested in sharing your story more broadly on that platform, because it's going to be, education, entertainment. I'm going to have like live cooking demonstrations. I've already lined up Chef Yazi to do an infused cooking demonstration. Representative Halland was scheduled as our first guest, and then we had to pull back while she was in her confirmation hearing, but she is committed to being a THC Smoke Signals podcast guest. And 89.1 FM San Diego is where you can view that, or at knsj.org. Listeners can listen live.
Very good. Does we have any more questions? Is there any more questions for Mary Jane? Again, she's an amazing resource. She's very connected with all the communities and following what everybody's doing. I definitely suggest checking out the magazine map that she has. I think that's in number 2. Is that in
it's all 4. Or 3, all 3, excuse me, not the first one.
I think I'm one of the people that want the poster on my wall, because it's so informative. Again, just follow the magazine, go support, and we'll keep getting together. I'm sure I'm going to run into you again.
Yes, and we have a documentary in the work as well to showcase what the fiber tribes are doing right now. And so nice. I'm working on like this crazy project for a video documentary as well.
Well, just to throw to give you some more information, tribes are looking for a marketplace. The tribes that are going to be growing, we do want to take our stuff to market nationally and internationally. So, we need to kind of add that in there, maybe give us a space to advertise and to create connections with other tribes too.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your time. I think this is where we're going to go ahead and jump off here, and good luck on your interview tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.